Dumelang Absheni. Good evening, South Africa, and welcome to Sunday Live here on SABC 1. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala, and as you know by now, I never do the solo.
You don't do the solo indeed. Good evening to you, Jackie, and good evening to ababukeli bethu bonke kuphi nakuphi lapho kufinyelela khona Sunday Live. I'm your host, Umxolisi wakwaMasango. Mina ngithi Sunday Live is definitely the place to be njalo ngosonto kusihlwa. Abantu abasha ngabe nina nithini na? Namhlanje kusihlwa we're talking about a topic that affects many people khona la eMzantsi Afrika. We're talking about absent fathers, Jackie.
Yes, Mxolisi, that's absolutely true. We know that millions of women are single-handedly raising children without their fathers. However, this is more prevalent in African families. According to research conducted by Stats SA, only 33% of black children live with their fathers, rather than 87% of white children who live with both parents. African fathers have the highest rate of absenteeism in this family structure. So this means that while many children are growing up in a stable, set-up family, black children are raised in fatherless homes.
Ngaphezu kwalokho, Jackie, ucwaningo lusibonisa ukuthi the absence of fathers is one of the factors that is associated with poor educational outcomes, antisocial behavior, and disrupted employment later on in their lives. And the father's presence is said to have a direct and indirect influence on the child's well-being, academic achievement, self-confidence, emantombazaneni, as well as adjustment and behavior control amongst boys. Namhlanje kusihlwa, we asking you, should parenthood form part of the country's education system in order to curb the number of absent fathers? It's simple. You can't SMS us this evening because we're not live, but you can join in the conversation on our social media pages as Khona Phela Facebook as Sunday Live SABC1. Alternatively, drop us a tweet on @Sunday Live SABC1. I'm also on Twitter as Mxolisi_X.
There's a new man in South Africa.
A man who makes no excuses
for unprotected sex, even after drinking.
A man who supports his partner
and protects his children.
A man who respects this woman and never lifts a hand to her.
A man who knows that the choices we make today
will determine whether we see tomorrow.
I am that man.
I am that man.
I am that man.
And you are my brother.
Ake uzoxoxisana nathi namhlanje kusihlwa. We are joined by Usisi Umisile wakwaMasuku, who's a statutory social worker from the Johannesburg Child Welfare. We are also joined by Ubaba Dr. Mbulelo Diasi, who's from the Brothers for Life and is an ambassador there, kanye a single mother, Usisi Udele Mugwena. Good evening and welcome to Sunday Live.
Good evening.
Jackie, usiphatheleni lapho.
I hope you're looking forward to the great insight that's going to be coming out of that conversation between Mxolisi as well as our panelists this evening. But on my side, on the floor, I'm joined by our studio audience who themselves are going to be sharing their take on this topic that we're discussing this evening about fatherless children. Handing over to Mxolisi.
Thank you for that, Jackie. Sis Misile, perhaps let's get straight into it. Now, you're a social worker, and I mean, statistics are shocking. They show that, African children in particular have the lowest proportion of present fathers, and when the years go by. Why do you think we are a fatherless society, as some analysts have said?
Well, there are a number of issues involved, basically. Especially when looking into my line of work and the cases that we have had to deal with at Joburg Child Welfare. At Joburg Child Welfare, briefly, we deal with children that have been abandoned and neglected. It could either be from the mother's side or from the father's side. And what we found mostly, which is quite interesting, we think, is that in most cases you find that the problem is not entirely with the child, but then in some instances you find that the quarrel is between the mother and the father, and the child is used as some sort of a pawn, basically, to avenge the father or to get back to the mother or something like that. And then we find that I don't think the parents realize the psychological implication of that kind of behavior within the child. So then what comes out also from that is that we find that we have a generation of people had certain experiences that might have affected them also, and then now because a society mostly of black people, where it's a culture where people don't really address their challenges. You find that people, now this thing becomes intergenerational. It passes from one person to another and it never gets addressed. So then I think we as a society need to reach a point where someone actually stands up and says, okay,
all right. I think this is perhaps where we also need to bring in Ubaba Mbulelo. Mbulelo, where are the fathers, Baba? Bakuphi abantu besilisa la?
Yeah, bakhona.
Bakhona
abantu besilisa bazifihlile lapho bezifihla khona, and thina ke uma ngabe sinamaphulo amadoda siyazazi le itori ukuthi why bezifihlile, why bengabonakala empilweni zabantwana, and some of the stories abazikhulumayo izinto esingafuni ukukhulunywa ngazo ku society. Ngizokwenza umzekelo, xa sibabuza abodade uba niphi ezimpilweni zabantwana kuthiwa hakaloku zani benamali omhlawula.
Oh yeah. Yeah, which is exactly what I also wanted us to discuss. I mean, you have our Baba coming out to say we want to be involved. Kodwa inkinga, culture also sometimes places a barrier. Ngoba uzothola ukuthi umuntu wesilisa akasebenzi, angeke akwazi ukubhadala inhlawulo yomntwana, so he's excluded.
So ilento ndithi kaloku ba enye yengxaki esinazo into yokuba ngeli xesha besimenza umntwana iculture ibingekho. And we never talked about this cultural aspect, including religion for that matter. But uma ngabe sekuzoba khona umntwana siqala uintroduce manje izinto zamasiko ukuthi yazi ekhaya bazofuna kuhlawula lo mntwana or else angeke uphinde umbone, or in fact upastor uzokhalaza ukuthi ngikhulule kanjani ingashadanga, so lo mntwana angeke uphinde umbone unless you yangishada. So zonke lezi zinto zivela manje nini sekuzaba khona umntwana and adle phansi omunye ngoba phela manje sekulihlazo. I think enye into mhlambe esifuna ke sikhulume ngayo kwi-African society ukuthi umntwana akusihlazo.
Indeed. Sister, perhaps you can take us through some of amahle nenyugo that you've experienced, phecelezi ama-challenges that you have experienced as a single mother.
Okay, as a single mother, okay, well, it's very hard to be honest, but I don't think ukuthi men they just run away just like that. What I know, we both have to take irresponsibility. We understand. So we end up like as a mother, I end up like taking like this hard decision. You know what? Let me just raise my child alone because I'm from the abusive relationship, in a way. But now I had to deal with two issues: protect abantwana, not to go to babone whatever that is happening. We understand, and I have to deal with the issue law again.
Perhaps you can give us your personal experience for umuntu wesifazane ohlezi ekhaya obukele namhlanje, from the abuse and raising the children alone. What was your experience?
Okay, the abuse already it affects you mentally, to be honest. And for you to be focused, you need to get healed first. You know, to tell yourself that, you know what, these are my blessings, you know, and okay, without God, to be honest. So, okay, other people, they will take it as like, okay, they get easily discouraged because of the journey. We understand, because sometimes umntana unogula mele umisesibhedlela ngapha.
And you do this all alone.
All alone, yes.
I think this is where Sis Misilo, you should come in, you know, from the social aspect, the social perspective. What help is there for abantu abafana no Sis Utele?
Okay, there are a number of organizations that we work hand in hand with for women such as yourself. Namely, it's we have organizations like your FAMSA. FAMSA basically will teach you basically how you in terms of skill wise how you're able to adapt basically in relation to what you're going through also, so that you are able to raise your child in a manner that will also, in a way that will also allow for your healing and also for the child not to be affected, because it's being a parent is it's not a one-dimension thing, and it changes also in according to the situation.
Indeed. Perhaps
that
I would like us to
in.
also explore that when we come back straight after the break, where we also get some of your audience reactions straight after this. You're watching Sunday Live.
Mabuhedi, if you just joined us, a warm welcome to Sunday Live here on SABC1, Mzansi for sure. This evening we are speaking about fatherless children in our society. And the question that we're asking you, Kochaye, is simply this: should parenthood form part of our country's education system in order to curb the number of absent fathers in our society? You can simply just go to our Facebook page and tell us what you think about this topic. And on Facebook, we are Sunday Live on SABC1, or you can just simply tweet us. We are Sunday Live, SABC1. Some great insight definitely came from that conversation between Kolisi as well as our panelists. Now it's time to go to our studio audience and find out what they think about this topic.
Growing up without a father is very difficult. I mean, I, for one, I was raised by a single parent, which is my mother, obviously. And then there was a stage in my life where I was a victim of peer pressure. I surrounded myself with a very bad group. And then they were always influencing me with these bad habits, like and then whenever I went back home, there was no one I could consult about the issue, because the minute I thought of talking about to my mother about it, and then it just came to my mind, no, so it was very difficult until I surrounded myself with positive people. That's how I survived it.
And I definitely hear exactly what you're saying, but maybe let's try and juxtapose that to someone who's lived with a father. How have you benefited? Just so that we get a sense of why it's important for fathers to play a role in their children's lives.
Well, I thank God that my dad was around, because I benefited a lot. You know, my father did things for me. He provided for me. He took me places where I've never been. You know, he taught me to be financially independent, and independent mentally and physically and emotionally. And I've seen that this has impacted my life in a way that when I look at girls who run maybe to, let's say, sugar daddies or the blessers, you know, they do that because they're looking for a father figure. They're looking for someone who they can, you know, say, that is my dad, that someone can provide for me, you know. Not necessarily they want to do that. And I'm not saying that all girls are like that, but having a father in my life really helped me, because he did things for me that I wouldn't necessarily want from someone else. So
there are fathers right now who might be watching Sunday Live and they're saying, look, I'm moved by this show. I want to do something. What's the first step? Where do they begin?
Thank you so much, Jackie. First of all, as for me, because I've seen that many fathers, they've never seen a good fathers in their lives. Number two, when it's Father's Days, we don't bring fathers to speak on the television. You bring head people to speak about fathers that are absent, and yet we are here as fathers who are doing good. Let us speak. And there are some men, good men, who are in the hostels. Lamadota fundisa utokotela akipoba nurse, but nobody thanked the men, and nobody speaks to men. You understand? Now we want the programs where we're going to be given a chance to say, where are the men that will speak to other men? Because when Lendesho, Dr. Jassy, I've been going around also speaking to men and listening to men. And you can hear that men are hurt because nobody sees good to them. Everything about men is about dogs, and even whether I'm MECs, whether the teachers, they always talk about bed. No matter we Father's Day. And yes, some men are absent in their family. Who are absent.
So what you're saying, Baba, is to say that we must work on the good that is there, because the problems are there, but we need to start empowering the ones who are getting it right. And I want to throw this back to you, Mxolisi. I mean, there's still obviously a lot to be done. Statistics are constantly speaking against the fact that men are stepping up. But Baba raised a very important question, at least important points to say that let's work on the good that has been accomplished. Mxolisi?
Thank you very much for that, Jackie. And of course, we are now joined by another single mother on our panel this evening, Usisi Uneli Wagwamaleka, who's also on the couch with us. Now, Sister Simzwile, before the break, she raised a whole lot of challenges that she faced as umuntu wesifazane ekhulisa abantwana. How was your experience? Please take us through it.
Okay, from my side, Mina, I've recently become a single parent from marriage as well. So the challenges that I faced were from having someone to share the burden with. Now you were alone. You'd be cooking at home and your son would be saying, I have a soccer match. So you'd have to divide yourself into two. Fix a quick meal and then go attend a soccer practice or soccer match. From then on, you've got another child, maybe your daughter, in a choir competition or choir thing that is happening at school. Now, those were my challenges, and financially as well. From sharing responsibilities in the house and now having to do everything on your own is a bit of a challenge.
Wow, and I'm sure, tell us more about the emotional aspect of it. I'm sure it must have been just equally taxing emotionally.
It is, particularly because other things you cannot address as a mother, especially with a boy child. So now with my son growing, becoming a teenager, he'll be becoming a teenager very soon. Some of the challenges that I faced were to talk to him about puberty and girls. Now I felt that maybe that's the father's responsibility. Now I have to deal with that.
Tell me, but did you feel it was some sort of a gap? Was it some sort of a void that you also had to, mommy and daddy at the same time? Like you mentioned, how are you going to discuss puberty with a male? That's how you felt.
It was, yes.
Utumbulelo, perhaps you can weigh in there. How do we ensure that Mama Bafana no Usisneli are actually well equipped?
I think definitely siyenze kuqala ukuthi sonke simibutho yamadoda sitargete i-boys thina. Sithi thina sawutarget i-boys even if akusumntwana wakho nomntwana wakhe naye senza sure ukuthi uba kulo program batrainwe. But iqala funa ukutraina la madoda ngoba funeka ngasi assume ukuthi ane knowledge but train so that si transfer la skills enganeni so that izikhule kahle ingane ngoba inkinga manje ukuthi kwi society yethu umntwana wakho owami akunandaba ukuthi kwenzekani kwakho na ungayingene yakwami. But if soqala ama programs and South Africa kamnandi la South Africa sikholwa i noise senze ni campaigns kwenziwe i noise all over kuma district onke o 52 senze sure ukuthi kunama programs okuthuthukisa ingane especially young boys.
Indeed. And of course, it takes a village to raise a child. And as you've also mentioned, nowadays, how do we ensure that as a community, to ensure
I think into masiyenze kuqala esifuna sivumane ngayo ukuthi le ngane zala kule village ingane zala akusingane yakho ingane ye village. And uma ngabe yenza something lapho i-village must take responsibility. Kungathiwa indaba yakho leyo. Kwalo uma ngabe umntwana sebulela umuntu siqale sonke ukukhuluma ukuthi awu behleli kuphi. So sonke I think must take the responsibility. Ke siyekeni lento yoku hide behind culture and religion.
Absolutely.
Start the responsibility.
Thank you for that, Wet Doctor. And of course, there's plenty more analysis as well as reaction to this all-important topic when we return.
Kabuhedi, if you just joined us, go Amuhela Ho Sunday Live. Today we are speaking about absent fathers, and it's definitely a tumultuous issue that we're discussing tonight here in studio. I want to go straight to our studio audience because there's really so much to unpack on this particular issue. And, I think we were just speaking just during the break a little bit to say, look, we need to start talking about solutions. They mentioned the fact that, fathers don't feel trusted. They don't feel that as much as they want to step up, they don't feel that they can because we're already telling them, you can't do this, you can't do this. So how do we move forward? How do we move from problem to solution?
Okay, mina ngokubona kwami right now, solution ekhona ukuthi right now sitshele labo baba out there ukuthi we don't only need you financially because that's another reason they're running away. They're thinking of irresponsibility ukuthi basikhulise, but just being there as a father ungikhulise emotionally, because when I know ukuthi manginama problems ikhona ubaba engizoya kuye ngikhulume naye, then definitely ngizokhula ngibe umuntu oqotho without imali or anything, because imali ngaba khona but happiness ingabibikho. So that's what we need nje.
So definitely the roles of fathers have to change. I guess our audience is saying we don't just need fathers to provide for us. We need you to be there to support us emotionally. I mean, what can we say to the fathers out there who are watching, who want to step up, but feel that, you know what, I can't do it. I've too far gone.
Yes. Thank you, Jake, for that. We were about finding a solution as a community, especially as fathers. We are coming from a church setup where we bring all the men together. We're trying to change the status quo to show the South Africa, the nation, that there are fathers there who are taking responsibility of their kids and want to train them and upskill them so that they understand exactly how to run their own individual homes, or they can be good fathers in the absence of the family setup. But we are doing things we are putting together organizations in the country. We are working in the background right now, but we're still launching some of these organizations countrywide. We will see, we'll put up placards, we'll be all over the place just to show that there are fathers who are out there trying to take responsibility of their own children and building the community as well.
Thanks very much for that, Jackie. Doctor, I'm going to come straight to you. It's not always about money. And there's this also, this perception of indoda ikhali. How are we going to go about shifting people's mindsets? A man can actually be a caregiver.
I think enye into efuneka mhlambe sibe realistic kuyo ndoba xa si introduce as programs kwi community asizama utshintsha abantu babe ngabelungu, ngoba kuthetheka loo nto ba every time sisithi men be responsible kuthiwa siza ne western culture. I mean iqanini by western culture into okhulisa umntanakho. So I think nathi we must try to decolonize our family structures. Senze ngolu hlobo lase-Afrika, ngoba e-Afrika umntwana ka-Odwakeni ngumntanam. But all of a sudden manje okwam. So I think mina into masiyenzeni masibuyeleni back a bit, ngoba zikhona izinto ezinhle e-Afrika, zikhona izinto ezinhle kwi-black communities. Masithatheni zona njengebesitsho baba phaa ke sipopularize aba benza kakuhle abantu, so that nendoda phaa ibone uba yeyi ndiyashiyeka, abantwana bayakhathalelwa, mna bapha abantwana. Ngoba after 30 years siphinde sibuyele kwezi TV athi umuntu ndifuna abazali bam. Asatsho ngokuba inhlawulo zange ikhutshwe, umntwana uthi ufuna umzali wakhe. Amasiko asathethi ngawo, asathethi nge-religion.
Sisneli, Umzwile, Doctor, perhaps we've become too westernized, but you've said some quite profound words. I think during the break, you said you wouldn't wish being a single mother on anyone. So for a young lady who's sitting at home today, pregnant, with the possibility of being a single mother, what's that voice that says you're going to be okay?
It comes from a place yokuthi abo mama should always put their children first before ama problems wabo nabo baba babantwana. So even if ubaba umntwana akabhadali maintenance and ngingazwakali kabi ne, it's always important to maintain the relationship first between your child and the father of your child before the financial aspect of the things. Because supporta kanjani ubaba umntwana angamboni umntwana? That's one. Secondly, how does this parent help you parent this child ungafuni ukuthi ambone? Because it goes from me saying, okay, ngiyasogola ngomntwana, you are not helping. So njengoba kuyi Friday ngicela uthatha abantwana bakho and then uzobabuyisa Sunday. That's when he gets to see ukuthi okay, this lady was actually telling the truth, because now from Friday until Sunday I experienced 2, 3, 4 and 5 which are not good with the child. Let us help each other parent our kids before judging each other according to the faults that we see between ourselves. Abantwana bethu soyitu, let it be that will raise our children equally soyitu.
Sisneli Maleka, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And once again, another thanks to my other guest on the couch this evening, Dr. Bulelo Kiasi, who's an ambassador from the Brothers for Life. Studio audience is Pinda Sinbong and Anis Togozi ngokuba nathi namhlanje kusihlwa kanye nawe mbukeli lapha ekhaya. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. From me, Umxolisi wakwaMasango kanye neteam belihamba phambili laka Sunday Live. We wish you a spectacular evening going forward. Take care.